Welcome to the Love Story with Lisa channel. Today, we're bringing you a brand new story. I would not have wished to leave Adrian Xia by tarnishing the reputation of the Liu family. I could disregard my own name, but my sisters could not, and the younger girls, not yet married, cared even more. Mother brought me to the main hall. Madame Xia had already been deeply dissatisfied with me. Upon hearing the rumors circulating in the capital, she had become so enraged that she had taken to her bed. When she saw Mother, she closed her eyes and said nothing. Only after hearing Mother's intention did she open them again. Her brows relaxed slightly. The Liu family has been upright for generations, she said coldly. And yet it has produced such a daughter. Though we are broad-minded people. For one so unfilial and unrighteous, I advise Madam to use a strip of white silk to end her life. Preserve the reputation of the Liu family's daughters. Mother, who had already felt guilty toward Madame Xia, even though she had been rude, Mother had intended to endure it. But the moment Madame Xia spoke those words, Mother's expression changed almost instantly. Madame Xia, mind your words. The affairs of the Liu family require no interference from you. Madame Xia gave a cold snort. If that is so, then take this letter of repudiation and leave at once. No. Two voices rang out at the same time. One was Mother's. The other belonged to Adrian Xia, who had rushed back in haste. How can it be a letter of repudiation? Mother demanded. I will not agree to a divorce, Adrian Xia declared. Madame Xia's face turned livid with fury. Unfilial son. A woman who cannot preserve her chastity, how can she be a daughter-in-law of the Xia family? Adrian Xia tried to seize my hand. I stepped aside. He stared at me, then suddenly dropped to his knees. If Huyin is unworthy to be a daughter-in-law of the Xia family, then expel me from the Xia family instead. She need only be my wife. Madame Xia nearly fainted from rage. You mean to anger me to death? What spell has this Evelyn Liu cast on you, that you would defy your parents for her sake? Adrian Xia lowered his head. Your son is unfilial. Mother's expression softened slightly, whiling. Do not speak to your mother in such a way. If you do not intend to divorce Huyin, before she could finish, a sharp female voice rang out from beyond the doorway. Whether he intends to or not is not up to him. Serafina Zhao entered, surrounded by palace maids. Pearls and jade glittered upon her. A strip of red silk hung from her hand. Her bearing was overbearing, imperious. His Majesty has issued an edict, she announced. Adrian Xia and Evelyn Liu are to dissolve their marriage. He further bestows upon Adrian Xia the hand of Princess Qinghe in marriage and appoints him commandant consort. The moment her words fell, everyone except me exchanged looks of alarm. Mother instinctively grasped my hand, her face drained of blood. A flash of anger crossed her eyes. When Madame Xia heard that the Emperor had ordered our divorce, the corners of her lips lifted slightly, but that faint smile vanished the instant she heard that Adrian Xia was to marry a princess. Though this dynasty did not forbid imperial consorts from holding office, Serafina Zhao was notoriously arrogant. The Empress had borne no son and had fallen from favor. How could such a princess be the daughter-in-law Madame Xia truly desired? Moreover, rumors already circulated among the common folk. Princess Qinghe, though unmarried, kept several male companions within her residence. The most violent reaction came from Adrian Xia. He stared at Serafina Zhao, undisguised hatred surging in his eyes. Serafina Zhao, however, seemed not to notice. She walked to my side, smiling brightly. Huyin, do you see? I am a princess. Whatever I desire comes easily to me. She spoke each word deliberately. Julian Zhang was like that. Adrian Xia is like that. You will never be able to compete with me. Mother trembled with anger at those words. I gently squeezed her palm in reassurance, then glanced at Madame Xia. Indeed. After all, the princess is the one Commander Xia holds in his heart. When the princess and I were captured together, he came to rescue us, yet without a moment's hesitation, he chose to save her first. When I said the words captured together, I deliberately drew out the tone. Serafina Zhao's expression shifted slightly. How could you and I possibly be the same? She retorted. I was only taken for half a day. The instant the words left her lips, she realized her mistake. Madame Xia's face had already darkened like gathering storm clouds. To send away one daughter-in-law accused of lost chastity, only to bring in another equally stained, the Xia family would become the laughingstock of the entire capital. But what had that to do with me? When mother led me away, Adrian Xia knelt before her and begged for a chance to speak with me in farewell. I dare not receive the grand courtesy of Commander Xia, mother said coldly. Ever since she had learned that Adrian Xia once abandoned me before the rebel army, she had lost all goodwill toward him. Still, she looked at me. I nodded. For in that very moment, a cruel thought had risen within my heart. In the corridor, only Adrian Xia and I remained. I looked at him and smiled. The princess has torn us apart, my lord. Do you still intend to treat her as an honored guest? Adrian Xia gazed at me intently. How could he not see through my thoughts? How could he fail to recognize that I meant to use him? Just as Serafina Zhao once used him to trample upon my sincerity. He remained silent for a long while. At last, he let out a bitter laugh. Huin. I will do as you wish. Then, Lord Xia, let us part here. I lifted my skirts and hurried back to mother. She clasped my hand tenderly. Together, we stepped out through the grand gates of the Xia residence. Autumn's sunlight fell across me. I did not look back, not even for a single heartbeat. How good it was, I was no longer his wife. On the road home, unease crept into my heart. Mother thought only of me. But father, as head of the Lu family, had always upheld propriety above all. He might not accept a daughter who defied moral convention as I had. When we entered the main hall, father's face was indeed lined with worry. My heart pounded as I lowered myself in a respectful bow. He looked at me. His expression softened slightly. Now that you have returned, rest well at home for a time. Do not be afraid. Your father will handle everything. When this storm passes, I will make arrangements for you. I will not allow you to suffer any injustice. I ventured cautiously. Father means that as a daughter of the Lu family, even if I remarry, I would still be worthy of a noble household? Father stroked his beard, yet worry clouded his eyes. The rebel forces are advancing like a force of nature. They have now taken Huicheng. I have repeatedly urged His Majesty to summon the provincial armies to the capital to defend the throne, but Grand Tutor Gao opposes it each time. If this continues, Xingjing will be in grave danger. My heart stirred. Even a sheltered daughter such as I knew, the present emperor was no enlightened ruler. Under tyranny, chaos and corruption flourished. The people were displaced, starving along the roads. On my journey north, what I saw was devastation, utterly unlike the splendor of Xingjing. It was suffering beyond the imagination of those who had long lived within the capital's glittering peace. The people longed, earnestly, desperately, for a new dynasty. Perhaps that was why the rebel army advanced like a force no one could withstand. I dismissed the servants and spoke softly. Father, His Majesty is not a benevolent ruler. Impudent. Before I had finished speaking, Father suddenly flung his teacup to the ground at my feet. How can you harbor such treasonous thoughts? Our Lu clan of Fanyang followed the founding emperor in conquering this realm. For 300 years we have served successive sons of heaven with unwavering loyalty. All that I have taught you about loyalty to the sovereign and love for the country, have you forgotten it all? Slowly, I knelt. Father taught me loyalty to the sovereign and love for the country. But Father also taught me that the people are precious, and the ruler is light. When a monarch is tyrannical, those who suffer are the common people. Did not our ancestors follow the founding emperor in subduing the realm precisely to overthrow the tyranny of the previous dynasty and restore peace beneath heaven? Father was so enraged that he raised his hand and struck me across the face. Mother hurried to shield me behind her. My lord, how could you raise your hand against her? Father stared at his own palm, as though regret flickered briefly in his eyes. Yet his voice remained stern. Look at what she has become. If I do not discipline her, will she not stir rebellion? How could the Lu family produce one so disloyal and unfilial? He turned and called out sharply, "Guards!" Several sturdy servants stepped in. "Take the young lady to the ancestral hall. Without my order, no one is to release her." I closed my eyes. In truth, I had long known that no matter what I said, I could not move the mountain called loyalty and filial piety in Father's heart. As for Julian Jiang, Father would only think I had lost my senses. I bent low until my forehead touched the ground. "There is no need, Father. I have no intention of remarrying. I wish to go to Great Mercy Temple and cultivate myself. I beg Father to grant permission." On the way to Great Mercy Temple, Mother wiped her tears again and again. She did not understand why I had suddenly become so resolute, so unwilling to yield to Father, yet she did not blame me. She stroked my face gently. "Do not be afraid. Mother will visit often. If you lack anything, send word. I will bring it at once. As for your father, I will speak on your behalf. If you do not wish to marry, then you shall not marry. Let alone the Lu family, mother's dowry alone is more than enough to provide for daughters like you." As she spoke, clear tears rolled down her cheeks. She could not restrain herself and pulled me tightly into her arms. "My daughter. From this day forward, Mother will eat vegetarian and recite the Buddha's name, praying only for your safety and peace." Nestled in her embrace, I felt only warmth. To be her daughter was the greatest blessing of my life. Life at the temple was plain and austere. To the former me, it would have been hardship, but now, I felt only freedom, as though I had finally escaped that gilded cage. Though Mother tried her utmost to persuade me, I kept only 2 of the 8 maids she had sent. I would not have them share my vegetarian fare, so each day I urged them to eat at the tavern outside the temple grounds. Freed from the stifling inner courtyards, the young maids were as lively as sparrows, chirping with delight as they told me news from the outside world. Adrian Xie did eventually marry the princess. Yet a few days before the wedding, Madame Xie sent 2 bedchamber maids into his quarters. She had done the same before, but in the past. Before they could even reach me, Adrian Xie had dismissed them. This time, however, he accepted them. The gesture was nothing less than a slap across Serafina Zhao's face. She, of course, would not sit still. She stormed into the Xie residence, dragged the 2 unfortunate women out, stripped them of their clothing, bound them behind horses, and had them dragged through the streets. Adrian Xie showed no anger. He ordered the women sent to a clinic for treatment. At the same time, he sent his own mother into the palace. Madame Xie went to Consort Lin's quarters and wept bitterly. Soon after, she returned with 2 beautiful palace maids in tow. along with a verbal reprimand from Consort Lin condemning Serafina Zhao for jealousy unbecoming of a princess and unworthy of a model for the women of the realm. Serafina Zhao, the legitimate daughter of Empress Zhao, had never suffered such humiliation since childhood. She immediately stormed into Consort Lin's palace and smashed everything in sight. The maid's tale ended there. The rest, I heard from mother. It turned out that Consort Lin had recently obtained a rare prescription and painstakingly refined it into a spiritual elixir, intending to present it to Emperor Zhao. In her rampage, Serafina Zhao shattered the vessel containing that single precious pill. Consort Lin knelt upon the floor, weeping in grievance. "Your Majesty, the princess has never liked this concubine. I have not dared utter a word of complaint. But this elixir..." Its principal ingredient was, at that point, Consort Lin choked with sobs and could not continue. One of the palace maids beside her, unable to bear the injustice, fell to her knees and began kowtowing repeatedly. The palace maid even lifted the wide sleeve of Consort Lin, revealing the strip of silk wrapped around her arm. Beneath it, blood still seeped through. She kowtowed and said, "Your Majesty, this elixir required the flesh and blood of one who sincerely burned incense and prayed for 49 days. Consort Lin remained in the Hall of Blessings for 2 full months before she could cut her own flesh to refine the pill and present it to your Majesty." Consort Lin staggered as though she might collapse. "It is nothing that this concubine cut her flesh," she said weakly. "I only fear that your Majesty's use of the elixir has now been delayed. What is to be done?" When Emperor Zhao heard this, his face flushed purple with rage. He immediately issued a decree stripping Serafina Zhao of her title as princess, demoting her to commoner status. At the same time, citing Empress Zhao's failure to discipline her daughter, he confined the empress to her palace for half a year and transferred authority over the 6 palaces to Consort Lin. Though Serafina Zhao lost her title, the emperor did not revoke the imperial edict bestowing her in marriage to Adrian Xie. Thus she still entered the Xie residence, but a new bride already disliked by her mother-in-law, and now stripped of imperial favor. What kind of future awaited her? Mother pondered for a long while before finally speaking. "My daughter, you won this round. You asked me to invite Lady Du to Great Mercy Temple to burn incense. Had you already planned this from the beginning?" Lady Du was Consort Lin's mother. "I had used her to draw Consort Lin into this game. Consort Lin wishes to ascend to the position of empress," I said quietly. "And I wish for Serafina Zhao to taste the consequences of her own actions." "Mother, do you think me too ruthless?" Mother shook her head and stroked my hair. "I only ache for my precious child. How much grievance must you have endured to scheme so painstakingly?" In the 3rd month of my stay at Great Mercy Temple, one of the maids returned from outside, her usual smile gone. "Mississippi, I heard the rebel army has taken Yuancheng. Beyond Yuancheng lies the capital. Miss, do you think the rebels will truly breach Xinjiang?" Unlike the maid's anxious face, within my heart, a long-dusted string trembled softly. Julian Jiang. I scarcely dared think of that name. I could only embroider, day after day without pause, 98 handkerchiefs. He had promised he would live and return to see me. I had promised I would embroider 100 handkerchiefs for him. Neither of us could break our word. I picked up my needle again. Another maid sighed softly. "I heard there are already people starving to death in Xinjiang." "That was bound to happen," another said mournfully. "The moment the rebels attacked, the city gates were sealed. Grain could not be transported in. The price of what little remained soared. How many can afford it? Especially with the cold this year." I set down my needle and thread. How much rice remains from the Chancellor's residence? Half a dan, the maid replied, then startled. Mississippi, you cannot mean. The common people had no surplus grain left, yet which noble household in the capital did not possess provisions enough for 3 years, when the rebels seized their first city, before the commoners even knew what was happening. The princes and nobles had already begun hoarding grain everywhere, nearly emptying the granaries of neighboring cities. The Chancellor's residence was no exception, nor was the Xie family. How gladly the people had once sold their grain, how bitterly they must regret it now. If I had never witnessed suffering, perhaps I could have folded my hands and looked away. But I had seen it, Marcus Chen's home reduced to ruin. Victor Li watching his father beaten to death, littling left. Crippled, there were too many wretched souls in this world. I could not save them all. Then I would save those I could. Ivy, go invite Abbess Ming. Tell her I have something to discuss. Then I turned to the other maids. Luna, gather the strong servants mother left behind to help. Leave enough rice for 3 days in storage. Move all the rest outside. The abbess arrived swiftly. After hearing my proposal, astonishment flickered in her eyes. She bowed deeply to me. Miss Lu is truly noble-hearted. This poor nun is ashamed in comparison. But within the city there are not merely hundreds of starving people, there are thousands. Even if Miss exhausts all she has, it will only relieve the most urgent need for a short time. I reached out and supported her arms. Abbess, do not worry. Use my rice first. Cook it into thin porridge and distribute it to the starving in the name of Great Mercy Temple. As for the rest, I will find a way. After speaking, I wrapped myself in a white cloak and stepped outside. Ivy lifted her skirts and hurried after me. Miss, where are you going? I pushed open the temple gates and smiled faintly, to beg for alms. The first fated person I met outside the temple gates was Adrian Xie. Snow clung to his shoulders. I did not know how long he had been waiting there. This was not his first visit. Ivy and the others had encountered him several times before and had even sighed to me that Adrian Xie was a rare devoted man. But I had no desire to exchange even polite words with him. I told them plainly of all the entanglements between him and me. From that day on, I never again heard them mention his name. Huin, Adrian Xie hurried forward. A flicker of joy lit his pale face. You are finally willing to see me. I smiled at him gently. His eyes shone even brighter. Lord Xie, I said calmly, Great Mercy Temple will set up porridge stalls within the city to relieve the disaster victims. I wonder whether you might be willing to donate some grain. Adrian Xie stiffened slightly. Is that the only reason you wish to speak with me? I kept my smile upon my lips. How can you say it is only this matter? This is a deed of boundless merit. What does Lord Xie think? The light in Adrian Xie's eyes slowly dimmed. You know, he said quietly, that I would never refuse you. I inclined my head slightly in acknowledgement. The carriage had long been prepared. I stepped inside and returned to the Chancellor's residence. After hearing my intention, Mother sighed. Huin, if you wish to distribute porridge, Mother has nothing against it. But how many can you truly help? There are countless starving people in the city. Even if we emptied the Chancellor's residence, it would not last through this winter. I looked out the window. Dark clouds blanketed the sky. Winter snow smothered the deep courtyards, yet at the edge of the horizon, a faint glimmer of light still pierced through. Mother, I need only 2 dan of rice. I turned back with a smile. For the rest, I will ask from other households. My charity is upright and open. There is nothing shameful in it. And besides, spring will come. Mother's face remained clouded with worry. Then a low voice came from outside the room. Give her 10 Dan. I started slightly. A sweep of purple robes flickered past the doorway. Father's figure disappeared down the corridor. From the Chancellor's residence, I went next door to the Song family. Though neighbors, our families were not particularly close. After hearing my purpose, Madame Song's expression softened. The young lady is indeed different from her father. The Song family will contribute 2 Dan of rice. Then came the Sun family, the Wang family. I went door to door. They had likely never seen a noble young lady so unconcerned with appearances. The looks they gave me were varied, yet most donated some measure of grain. After all, the famine had only just begun. For now, I could still rely on the Liu family's reputation to exchange for rice. There were also those who, upon hearing my request, tried to drive me from their gates. I did not grow angry. I only smiled gently. Madam has never known hunger, has she? That is why you do not know what people are capable of when starving. If one day these commoners are driven to desperation, will they remember that it was Madam who bought up all the grain they once possessed? The lady's expression shifted. They sold the grain. I paid silver. Fair exchange. You cannot blame me. Madam is mistaken, I replied calmly. If they had known earlier of the rebellion in the north, would they have sold their grain to you? Miss Liu's tongue is sharp indeed. Forgive me. I seek only to find them a way to survive within this city. If true chaos descends, can Madam's estate truly remain untouched? In the end, I still secured 1 Dan of rice from her. For 3 days, I ran tirelessly through the mansions of the wealthy and powerful. By the time I returned to Great Mercy Temple each night, it was already deep into the dark hours. Luna, who remained behind to tally the grain, was flushed with excitement. Miss, we have gathered 70 Dan of rice, enough to fill 3 meditation halls. My hand brushed over the pale gold grains. I let out a quiet breath. If it is all cooked into thin porridge, it should last a month. And after a month, I tightened my cloak and looked into the distance. Beyond the city walls, Julian Jiang. I wanted to see him. Half a month later, the rebel army finally reached the outskirts of the capital. The fragile peace that had lingered over Xingjing shattered at once. The shadow of impending defeat loomed above every head. Even Emperor Zhao no longer spent his days in the alchemy chamber. Instead, he urgently summoned the court ministers to discuss fleeing south. Mother rushed to find me, urging me to pack and go south with them. I shook my head. Huin. Mother's face flushed red with anxiety. At a time like this, you still wish to defy your father? Mother, I said softly. I do not seek to defy him. Do not worry for me. Among the rebel army is an old friend of mine. They will not harm me. Mother stared at me. An old friend. From the north? Could it be? I unfolded the final handkerchief. It was a brocade piece embroidered with mandarin ducks in twin harmony. I pressed it into Mother's hands. Yes. I have seen Julian Jiang. The moment she heard his name, Mother knew she could no longer persuade me. No one understood better than she how I had lived during the 3 years of Julian Jiang's exile. Half dead. The first 6 months, I had scarcely left my sickbed. Had Mother not remained at my side daily, weeping and keeping vigil, I might not have survived that winter. So it was him, she murmured. Only he could make you lose your soul like this. She fell silent for a long time. But war is dangerous. If he, I smiled, then I will live well. The wife of the rebel leader is a woman of great vision. She once told me her greatest regret was never receiving a proper education. If they succeed, she intends to open schools for women. When that time comes, she would have me serve as headmistress. Even if I cannot remain by his side, I will still live well. I will remember him always, and let that longing drive me forward. Mother's tears fell freely as she embraced me for the last time. Huin. You have grown. Mother is leaving. Your father will certainly follow the emperor south. Though she worried for me, she worried even more for father. I bowed deeply toward her departing figure and remained that way for a long, long while. I hope that we will still have a day to meet again. On the night the city fell, the capital descended into utter chaos. Abbess Ming remained calm. She gathered us in the main hall and led us in low, steady chants of scripture. Suddenly, outside the gates of Great Mercy Temple, a burst of chaotic footsteps broke through the night. Great Mercy Temple has received countless rewards and silver from the Son of Heaven. A voice shouted loudly, "Follow me. Break in, seize the wealth, then flee south." Abbess Ming did not move. Her voice remained deep and steady as she comforted the frightened nuns. With utmost sincerity we make our offerings. May all sentient beings hear the true Dharma and never fall into heretical paths. Ivy and Luna trembled with fear, yet still forced themselves to stand in front of me, shielding me with their small bodies. I gently pushed them aside, drawing the short blade hidden within my sleeve. I stepped into the courtyard. Holding my breath, I listened. The shouting outside rose like crashing waves, then suddenly, it was drowned out by an even greater roar. Great Mercy Temple saved us from misery. Everyone, with me, protect the Taoist masters. Guard Great Mercy Temple. The cries shook heaven and earth. From all directions, footsteps thundered like rolling storms, swiftly overwhelming the bandits' shrieks. Revered Taoist masters, do not be afraid. A voice called from beyond the gate, "We owe Great Mercy Temple a debt as deep as the sea. We swear to defend you with our lives." My eyes burned. The seeds of kindness sown long ago had finally borne fruit. Thank you. By the third watch of the night, silence blanketed the temple grounds. Then, knock, knock, the bandits have been driven away by us. Revered masters, please rest assured. Hearing this, Abbess Ming ordered a young nun to open the gate and offer thanks. But the man outside spoke again, hurried and anxious. "Revered Taoist, please do not open the gate. The city is in chaos, rebels rising everywhere. It is not safe." My heart tightened. I stepped forward quickly. "May I ask, has the rebel army already entered the city?" "Yes." My fingers unconsciously tightened around the jade bracelet at my wrist. I wanted to ask more, but the man suddenly cried out in alarm, "Oh no! The army is coming!" The pounding of hooves thundered closer. A rider reined in sharply before the temple gates. His voice trembled slightly. "May I ask, is there a young lady surnamed Lu here?" It felt as though I were floating among clouds. My hand clutched the jade bracelet so tightly it hurt, yet I could not move. Outside, the voice asked again, "May I ask, is there a young lady surnamed Lu here?" "My surname is Jiang," he added. "I am an old friend of the young lady." Without warning, I flung the gates open. Snow swirled. The wind howled, then slowly quieted. There he was, a young man in white robes and silver armor, seated tall upon his horse. His features were as refined as carved jade, radiant, like the first faint light of dawn breaking across the horizon. We stared at each other, Neither of us knew who was the first whose eyes reddened. He extended his hand toward me. "Miss Lu, I have come to claim 100 handkerchiefs." Only much later did I learn that when the rebel army entered the city, the Xia family's contributions had not been small. Prime Minister Xia and my father had both been loyal ministers of the former dynasty, yet they chose different paths. Father, though knowing the great tide had already turned, resolutely followed the last emperor south. Shengong, who would later become Emperor Shen, had long prepared for this moment. He lay in ambush at Mount Rong and personally cut down the last emperor, who had been so terrified he lost control of himself beneath the blade. Father fell beside the emperor's body. Shengong had long heard of Father's integrity and incorruptibility. He treated Father with great respect, addressing him as Sir, and in the name of a student, earnestly implored him to continue serving under the new dynasty, to repel foreign enemies, pacify internal unrest, and usher in an era of lasting peace and prosperity. Father turned and looked at him for a long time. At last, he drew a thin volume from his robes. It was a manuscript on the principles of governing the realm, written through years of his painstaking effort. A loyal minister does not serve two sovereigns. When the ruler dies, his minister dies with him. The poison he had swallowed earlier suddenly took effect. Blood streamed from him as he collapsed and died. Mother followed after him. She took her own life within the carriage. Shengong bowed 3 times before Father's body with solemn reverence, ordering that both be buried with the rites of national scholars. When all had settled, Julian Jiang accompanied me to pay respects at my parents' graves. Huing. His eyes were red. His expression was darker than ever. "I wanted to save your parents. But your father had already taken poison. And your mother." On one side, the woman he loved, on the other, the enlightened ruler he served. He was torn between the two. I shook my head gently. I blame no one. This was my parents' choice. Perhaps, in his final breath, Father finally felt release. One side was his ruler. The other, the people. Whichever he chose, he would have suffered. And as for Mother, she entered the Lu family at 16. I was her only daughter. Father had endured immense pressure from the powerful Lu clan of Fanyang. He refused to take concubines. Refused even secondary companions. He kept his vow of fidelity to Mother. He once said he wished to be the southwest wind, carrying his longing endlessly toward her. As though affirming my words, a gentle breeze passed by. It brushed the dust from the gravestone clean. I bowed deeply. "Father, I will inherit your will. In your stead, I will guard peace beneath this heaven. Mother, I will care for myself. I will live safely and in serenity. And I will find a life of happiness of my own. Let us go." Just as we were about to return to the city, a disheveled figure suddenly rushed toward me, hair wild, a sharp blade clutched in hand. Julian Jiang reacted in a flash. He kicked the attacker away. The figure stumbled backward 5 or 6 steps before crashing heavily to the ground. "Evelyn Lu, Evelyn Lu." A shrill female voice tore through the air. From beneath tangled hair, she lifted her head. Her face was crisscrossed with scars, her expression twisted with hatred, like a vengeful ghost risen from hell. She screamed like a madwoman, "I'll kill you." I faltered, "Serafina Zhao." After Prime Minister Xia submitted to the new regime, the Xia family was largely spared in the chaos, all except Adrian Xia, and his wife, Serafina Zhao. It was said that on the day the capital fell, Adrian Xia had intended to go to Great Mercy Temple to find me. But a stray arrow had struck him in the eye, blinding him. That unit belonged to Marcus Chen. because Adrian Xia was the most capable talent of the Xia clan. Marcus Chen had personally gone to the Xia residence to apologize. Yet before he arrived, Mei Dong had deliberately told him everything about what had happened between Adrian Xia and me, and so, Marcus Chen's apology had ended. Like this, I heard that the one young Master Xia rescued that day was Princess Qinghe, leaving Miss Lu behind for us. We thought young Master was already blind. So it turns out, you still had one eye left. In that case, it is we who were blind. I beg young Master's magnanimous forgiveness. As for Seraphina Zhao, on the very day Shen Gong, who must now be called Emperor Shen, ascended the throne, Madame Xia had people force her to drink poisoned wine inside her chambers. But Seraphina Zhao was never one to submit quietly. No one knew where she found the strength. She broke free from the two burly servants restraining her, seized a porcelain bowl, and smashed it repeatedly against Madame Xia's head. Madame Xia died on the spot. In the ensuing chaos, Seraphina escaped, too. This day, the Xia family was still hunting her down. Evelyn Lu. You've ruined me, she wailed hysterically. I've lost everything. My country is gone, my family destroyed. My husband's household wants me dead. All of this is your doing. What kind of fox spirit are you? Why is it that the man in my heart, and even my own husband, cannot forget you? Julian Jiang shifted, stepping in front of me. Huyin is sincere and brave. Whatever she desires, she strives to obtain with her own hands. As for you, you relied only on your status as a princess to seize what you wanted. Seraphina's body stiffened. She slowly turned her head, as though only now seeing clearly the young man beside me. Julian Jiang. His voice was cold. Yes. It has been a long time, princess. Her mouth fell open. You're still alive? Her gaze swept over him. Suddenly, understanding dawned. So that's it. So that's how it is. She burst into laughter. No wonder that foolish tyrant cleared the Jiang family's name. So you've become his hound. Ha! Julian Jiang, your grandfather was upright all his life, and yet you end up a traitor. She laughed and cried at once, her whole body trembling. Why? You want to be with Evelyn Lu, don't you? I worked so hard to persuade father to grant us a marriage. And in the end, you still chose her. You've turned me into the laughingstock of the realm. Two strong servants rushed forward, lifting her from either side and swiftly stuffing cloth into her mouth. Adrian Xia followed behind them. He cast one glance at Seraphina Zhao. Then his remaining eye turned toward me. Huyin, I interrupted calmly. Young Master Xia, it is inappropriate for you to address me so. Please call me Miss Lu. Or Headmistress Lu. Qinglang Academy was still under construction, but I had already been appointed as its headmistress by His Majesty. Thus, many now addressed me as Headmistress Lu. Adrian Xia seemed about to say more. Instead, he reached up and touched the patch over his eye. His voice was heavy. Yes. I merely wish to apologize to Headmistress Lu for frightening you. I nodded. You are too courteous, young Master Xia. Suddenly, the person beside me hooked his little finger around mine. I glanced down. The young man deliberately looked away, feigning indifference. Mei Dong is still waiting for us to eat meat buns. I burst into laughter, interlacing my fingers with his. I squeezed his hand. Let's go. On the day His Majesty ascended the throne, a grand banquet had been held at Tianyuan Hall to celebrate the founding of the new dynasty. But the feast we attended today, this was the true celebration. It was still a small house. No servants poured wine. No attendants presented dishes. Everyone was noisy and lively, passing plates hand to hand. Some even placed their feet on chairs, drinking and playing guessing games, roaring with laughter. It was utterly joyous. The Emperor and Empress, who tonight were simply Shengong and Sister Claire, were dressed plainly, chatting warmly among everyone. Mei Dong sat beside me. She leaned close and whispered her recent troubles. It turned out the son of the Governor-General had been pestering her relentlessly. I only helped him once. Who knew he'd become such a nuisance? All day long he goes on about repaying a life-saving favor with his body, clinging to me like a ghost. It's maddening. I fought back laughter, then give him a beating. Cure him of that habit. How can I possibly do that? Mei Dong's eyes widened. He's so weak. What if I break him? Oh. So you can't bear to? She turned her face away. Who can't bear to? I just pity the weak. Smiling, I picked up some vegetables and placed them in her bowl. In truth, the Governor-General's son is both virtuous and talented. His temperament is gentle. If you're interested, you should get to know him better. Who's interested? And how do you know him so well? Are you close with him? Resting my chin on my hand, I asked lazily, I merely wish to ask you, what is that young man's surname? Mei Dong replied. Lu. Then isn't it obvious? I am precisely the cousin of that young Master Lu. Mei Dong's eyes flew wide. She grabbed my arm tightly. Then between me and your cousin, who do you like more? I could not help but laugh. Of course I like you more. After 3 rounds of wine, Marcus Chen approached me, cup in hand, his face flushed from drink. I raised my own cup and stood before he could speak, teasing him first. Brother Chen, did you truly come today to drink with me? Or are you planning to scold me again? The mention of old matters made his already rosy face turn red all the way to his ears. You're only good at teasing me, he muttered. That day was my fault. I'll punish myself with 3 cups to make amends. He drained 3 cups in succession. In the new dynasty, Marcus Chen still held his military post. I lifted my cup. I wish you smooth fortune in your martial path. He glanced sideways, sharp-eyed and smiling, and I wish Headmistress Lu a world full of students. Also, I wish this little brother of mine to have his heart's desire fulfilled. I followed his gaze. Julian Jiang was watching me quietly. Warm golden lamplight fell across his refined brows. Our eyes met. He suddenly smiled, and extended his hand toward me. We had known each other at 7, understood each other at 11, belonged to one another at 12. At 13, he bore exile to the north. At 16, I was forced to marry another. At 19, we met again. At 20, he gently took my hand. Huyin. Will you marry me? The banquet roared with laughter and clamor, yet between heaven and earth, it seemed only the beating of our 2 hearts remained. Softly, I answered, yes. Since our parting, through every dream and waking thought, you have been there beside me. Extra story. The first time Julian Jiang fell ill was on the road to exile. Once, he had been a proud young man, handsome as jade, of noble birth. Who would have thought that in the blink of an eye, he would fall into an abyss, reduced to a criminal in chains? His revered grandfather had taken his own life within the palace. His father and elder brother had died in the streets. His mother, unable to endure the humiliation of being sent to a brothel, had taken his younger sister Anya Jiang with her in death. The day he was exiled was desolate and bleak. Not one of his former close friends dared to see him off. In a single night, he lost his home, his family, his friends. On the road north, Julian Jiang collapsed. The escorting guards lashed him with long whips until his flesh split and bled. Still, he lay unmoving, just as one guard prepared to report that he had died of illness and bury him on the spot. A pair of strong arms lifted him up. The man's voice was low and powerful. "Little brother, if you die, then there will truly be nothing left. If you die, then there will truly be nothing left." The simple words jolted him awake as if from a dream. He forced himself to swallow mouthful after mouthful of porridge the man fed him, then struggled to open his eyes. The man said his surname was Shen. Julian Jiang called him Big Brother Shen. Later, when no one was around, Big Brother Shen told him something. Someone had come looking for him. It was a male servant. The servant said he had been sent by his young lady to deliver clothing and food to young Master Jiang. But before he could finish speaking, two burly servants rushed in and dragged him away. Julian Jiang suddenly clutched his sleeve. At first he laughed, then his laughter trembled, and his eyes reddened. In this world, there was still someone who remembered him. At least one person still remembered. Only upon reaching the northern lands did Julian Jiang understand what hell on earth truly meant. Prisoners were skeletal, yet forced to labor in wind and snow. They never ate their fill. They never wore enough to stay warm. The slightest laziness earned them brutal beatings from the wardens. Such days dragged on for 2 years. Not only did they not improve, they worsened, as corruption festered among the officials, until one day, a boy sharing his quarters argued back just twice, and was beaten to death. Big Brother Shen stood. "Kings and generals, are they born of different blood?" Just 8 words, and the prisoners of the northern lands rose in rebellion. The realm had endured the tyranny of the Zhao family for far too long. They marched south. More and more people joined them. Even certain prefects, having seen the rot of the court to its core, opened their city gates and welcomed the rebel army in. When they captured the 3rd city, he received news. Evelyn Liu was about to be married. Julian Jiang stood stunned for a long time. Yet in his heart, not a trace of resentment arose. She was the pillar of her household, but she was also Evelyn Liu, passionate, courageous, brilliant. It was no wonder many admired her. Only one thought remained in Julian Jiang's heart. He wanted to see her in bridal red. Against the protests of his elder brother and elder sister, he slipped alone into Xingjing. He disguised himself as a hunched old man, his face marred as though by burns. Ignoring the disgusted stares of others, he forced his way into the crowd, just to be a little closer to her. Julian Jiang's wish was fulfilled. She wore wedding robes. Her long hair flowed like dark clouds. Holding a round fan, she was helped from the bridal sedan by a maid. Her gaze seemed to sweep in his direction. Evelyn Liu did not pause. But soon, a maid approached him. "The Xie residence has prepared celebratory sweets for all the townsfolk who came to watch." In the portion handed to him, beyond the sweets, there were several pieces of silver. "Our young lady wishes the old gentleman good health." Julian Jiang clutched the heavy pouch, trembling slightly. The moon in his heart remained as pure and luminous as ever. But he was no longer worthy of her. He saw Evelyn Liu again in Yong City. Sister Claire had asked him to identify a prisoner captured within the city. Was it that Princess Qinghe? Julian Jiang's voice was low, but there was a tremor beneath it. Wasn't it Seraphina Zhao? Could it possibly be anyone else? Empress Claire Shen let out a soft sigh. She claimed she was the wife of Commander Adrian Xie. Julian Jiang rose to his feet so abruptly that the chair behind him scraped harshly against the floor. Adrian Xie's wife? Hadn't he? He had never run so fast in his life. It was as if wind had sprung up beneath his feet. Even so, he hated that he could not move faster, yet when he truly reached the door, his steps faltered. Suddenly, he felt nervous, uneasy. From inside the room came a woman's voice, the voice he had yearned for day and night, General Snow Crane. Julian Jiang pushed the door open at once, for eyes met. After 6 years of separation, at last, he saw her again. From Evelyn Lu's lips, he learned what she had endured all these years. So it turned out her marriage to Adrian Xie had been an imperial decree from Emperor Zhao. Adrian Xie had deceived her, tricked her into lowering her guard. And when they were captured together, he had taken Serafina Zhao with him, abandoning Evelyn Lu alone in the enemy camp. Julian Jiang did not dare let his thoughts wander further. If he had not been here, what would have happened to Evelyn Lu? Julian Jiang. Seeing you again makes me very happy. Just one sentence from her, and all his unease, all his fury, melted away. He had so much he wanted to say, but in the end, he restrained himself. I feel the same. Evelyn Lu adapted quickly to life in Yong City. Many times, as he hurried past, he would see her surrounded by a crowd, calm and composed, her brush moving like dragons soaring and phoenixes dancing. Gradually, when people mentioned her in front of him, she was no longer someone else's beloved. She became Miss Lu. Little Sister Lu. Julian Jiang felt a quiet pride rise in his chest. How could the woman he loved ever belong to anyone? That thought was proven once more on the day they married. It was already 2 years later. In that time, Adrian Xie had abducted her and taken her back to Xingjing, hiding her away. Julian Jiang had followed Emperor Shen, breaking through Xingjing's gates and reclaiming her. By then, she had regained her freedom. On the night of the victory banquet, he gathered all his courage and asked for her hand in marriage. Evelyn Lu agreed. He was overjoyed. So overjoyed he wished the wedding could be held the very next day. But Marcus Chen, Victor Li, and the others firmly opposed him. Even Mei Dong and Empress Claire Shen objected. They insisted that such a wedding must be prepared with utmost care. It had to be grand. Evelyn Lu must not suffer even the slightest grievance. Just how grand? Julian Jiang began to suspect the entire city would come to escort her to her husband's home. And he was right. After peace returned to the realm, Abbess Ming of the Great Mercy Temple made public a deed of charity. In the final winter of the previous dynasty, grain had been scarce. The starving lay dead along the roads. Chancellor Lu had personally gone from house to house among the wealthy families of the capital, appealing for donations. In the end, 70 shur of rice were gathered. Under the name of the Great Mercy Temple, porridge was cooked and distributed to the starving. Only then was the bleak sight of corpses littering the streets avoided. Most of the common people survived long enough to see the new dynasty's army enter the city. Those who had once been saved never forgot. On the day Evelyn Lu was wed, they poured into the streets of their own accord to see her off. Evelyn Lu wore magnificent bridal robes, but instead of hiding her face behind the traditional round fan, she lifted the carriage curtain herself. Smiling, she nodded gently to the people standing on both sides of the road. Behind her bridal carriage walked her students. Their backs were straight, their heads were held high. Pride shone equally upon every face. Mei Dong led them at the front. The youngest, at the very end, seemed no more than 9 years old, though their ages differed. Their expressions were the same, proud, unyielding. After the ceremony, Edmund Lu wiped at his reddened eyes. Then he turned fiercely toward Julian Jiang. If you dare treat my cousin poorly, I will never let you go. Mei Dong crossed her arms, righteous and imposing, and it won't even be your turn. Are we, her students, useless? Julian Jiang could only smile bitterly. Mei Dong. 2 years ago, didn't you say I was the most important person in your heart? Meidong answered calmly, but teacher is not only my teacher. She is also the person in my heart. Edmund Lu's expression changed again and again. His earlier ferocity dissolved as he hurriedly urged, "The auspicious hour has arrived. Hurry, go into the bridal chamber." And he shoved Julian Jiang toward the door. Evelyn Lu sat quietly upon the bed. The elaborate phoenix hairpins had long been removed. She wore a simple white sleeping robe. Her long hair cascaded over her shoulders like a waterfall, revealing her fair and beautiful face. Julian Jiang suddenly felt nervous. His throat tightened. "Huyin." Evelyn Lu looked at him and smiled. "The moon in the sky. You in my heart." At last, he reached out and touched that radiant moon. The end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.